Hi, I'm Lee Caraher. I'm the founder and CEO of Double Forte, an independent public relations strategic communications firm. And that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. To me, it means a different day every day. And no 2 days are alike. And I get to use my experience over the last a lot of years to help clients out of lots of different kinds of situations. In the past couple of years, though, what's been coming up more and more often, the request that's been coming up more and more often for me and my senior staff and the agency at large, and I know this is happening across the industry, is can you please just sit at the table with us? Can you please just help us figure out what we're going to say, why we'd say one thing versus the other? Here's our plan. How do we execute that plan so that it's graceful and it's efficient and it's expedient and we have options at the end? Because more and more how you do things, how you say things, how you behave, which is also what speaks for you, has dramatic, important bottom line impact in how your business can flourish or not. And we just have to look to, I don't know, 5, 6, 100 different layoffs and how different companies have handled them in the last, not to say last couple of years. You could just look at 60 of them in the last 2 months and see how horrible some of them have been because they didn't think about what they're going to say, how's it going to be referred, how's it going to be understood, what is their behavior, how is that behavior going to be understood, and what is the long-term impact of that behavior in those words. So more and more of our time in the senior staff at Double Forte is spent on that. When I started my career, there were very, very few chief communications officers outside of the government or of the military. In general, the chief communications officer was sort of over in those two sectors, the government and at all levels, and then the military. If you Googled it today, or if you went on LinkedIn and searched for chief communications officer, you would have over 450,000 people who use that term somewhere in their profile. They do not all work for the government or the military. Most of those people are in corporate America in some way, shape, or form, big, small, medium, etc. Which just shows you, I've been doing this for a while, so just let's just say that's in the last 20 years. And it's probably in the last 10 years, but let's just say it's in the last 20 years. The dramatic change that has happened in the communications field between like 20 years ago, let's just say 2020, 24 years, and today, where companies are hiring chief communications officers that report to the CEO, not just to chief marketing officer, and I'll talk about that in a second, and then using fractional or part-time as CCOs because either they have this very specific need or they don't haven't rearranged their P&L to accommodate a different structure of that. But they're all thinking it. They're all thinking it because the fractional CCOs and the people at agencies who can do this kind of work are busy. We're busy doing this work. So let's just talk about that for a second. What is a fractional CCO? It's a person who gives you part of their time, dedicates a certain portion of their time every week or every day to the job of long-term reputation management and communication strategy against all different constituents, so that what you say today doesn't bite you in the ass tomorrow, or what you do today doesn't bite you in the ass tomorrow. In the goal of being efficient and getting things done, that you don't close yourself off from options in the future just because you didn't think about how to say it, when to say it, what words to use, what behaviors to use to actually deliver your intent. And you just have to look, let's just say, so it's now end of February 2024. There have been no less than 24 extreme examples of very poor layoff strategies in the last 2 months of this year that the rest of us are going, if you just thought about it, if you just thought about it, you could have done so much better. You would have had so many more options. Because in the end, we all have very, very long memories as humans. And what you say today will impact your ability to have options tomorrow as a business. Period. I can give you lots and lots and lots of evidence on that. So when is a good, when's a good time to have a CCO? I would say always, but there aren't enough. There aren't enough people who have the credentials to be a CCO in this country at all different levels of company size, stature, situation, phase, all the kind. There aren't enough of us. So when's a good time to decide to have a fractional or put together a person who can dedicate time for you for 3 to 18 months? One, if you're planning an exit, for your company or for your senior staff or your senior leader, do that. Get somebody involved who can help you think about all the implications of when you say things, what implications does it have for the company, what implications does it have for the staff and for your customers and for the industry at large, et cetera. We have done in the last 2 years, four different engagements with companies that were planning exits. Not all of them have exited yet, number one. Number two, the two that thought they were going to exit one way exited another, and one is about to wind it all down in a pretty graceful way. But it took, 2 of them brought us on at 18 months, 2 brought us on at 12 months, and that was ample time to do things gracefully so that it wasn't a shock to the system and that the business had a time to plan for opportunity and options for itself and not box itself into a corner by having its people abandon them. Because no matter where we are in the economy, good people are always in need. Another time, another situation is when you have an executive crisis of some sort, either a firing or a lawsuit or that kind of thing. So that, again, the long-term thinking about this. The long-term thinking, not just about what you say, but then what do you do later? So that it's not just saving face. It's actually making a substantial difference in how the company moves forward after a crisis of that kind of thing. Also, working right now with 2 clients who are undergoing tremendous market change. How they've done things is not going to be how they get to do things in the future. And we're working with those 2 companies to figure out how to, as they think about the different options for going forward, how to communicate those things in the short term so they have options in the long term. And then, so how do you layer things and what are the behaviors and actions that you would take that would allow you to do these things? And this is the long-term nature of the communications function versus the short-term nature of a marketing function. If you think about marketing as the goal of marketing is to drive short-term demand, the goal of communications is to build a long-term reputation. When you have a long-term great reputation, it's building over time, so that if you do have a fall, you fall off that precipice, you can come back and bounce back better than you, or at least bounce back at all. That marketing function works much stronger on a good, strong reputation than it does without one. And if you divide those 2 things to short-term demand and pipeline to long-term awareness and reputation, it's sort of easier to see how those 2 work side by side, not up and down. Another, in crisis communication, always, we think about a crisis team sort of coming on board. That is basically the same function in a critical moment where there's a product recall or there's a death or there is natural emergency or all that kind of stuff. The other piece on if there's an exit or if you're in M&A mode, how to think about those things, not just so that they can be done, but so that they're efficient. It is so much better to plan for communication before you need it than to have to respond in that moment. It costs a lot less. I know it costs so much less if you put it in place before you need it. And you're thinking about different scenarios and thinking about the key messaging that you want to have over the long term so that at every moment in time you can deploy it to your advantage. If you have to react in the moment every single time, you are probably not doing a great job because there's so many things happening at the same time. You are probably having to backfill all the time from an immediate response, where if you had thought about it ahead, you could have laid down, like, here are some key messages if this happens. Here's a scenario if that happens. Here's what we want to do if this happens. That's all the job. The job of the communications officer is to do those things. So, my industry, public relations, has dramatically changed since I started in this career so long ago in Boston, Massachusetts. And the one thing that is gratifying, so gratifying, is that the chief communications officer is so much more prevalent in American business today than it was when I started, or even when I started this company 21, 22 years ago. And to the point where now fully half of the work that my senior team is doing is being deployed in fractional situations where a client will get, between a quarter or a third of one of our people's time backed up by a team so that they can contemplate meaningfully how to maneuver their business for options among all their stakeholders. All right. That's fractional CCO. That's why you need it. More soon.